Hey everybody, and welcome to Rabbit's Ramblings, podcast 406. This time I don't have too much to say. I have a bit to say about No Rest for the Wicked Early Access, and I only very briefly peeked at the new Remnant 2 DLC, so I have just a teeny tiny bit to say about that. And that's it for this time. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. No Rest for the Wicked is doing something new. It could be broadly defined as an ARPG meets Dark Souls, much like the way Remnant 2 could be described as a shooter, which means Dark Souls. Typically, an ARPG means super high action, something like Diablo or Path of Exile, or I think the most recent one is Last Epoch, are all sort of in that ARPG genre people will think of when somebody says ARPG. And typically with these games, the reason I lose interest is the higher you go in levels, the more it becomes about you want to maximize your attack, and then you want to spam the entire screen, and then this whole screen of bad guys is coming at you, and you're spamming screens of bad guys, and that's all you're doing. It's just one big screen of spam. But No Rest for the Wicked is doing something kind of totally the opposite, which I have been waiting for forever. And that is that you're only focusing on a few bad guys at a time. Typically, you want to keep that to about one or two. And if you get like 3 guys, or God's forbid 4 people coming at you, you will pretty quickly get into a lot of trouble. Because even just one-on-one, especially early on, can be quite difficult to manage. You want to be careful about your positioning. You want to be careful about your timing of attacks, because you will get a little bit of animation lock, but also you can run out of stamina very quickly if you're doing melee as example. So you have to be very careful about how much you dodge, how much you attack, when you attack, where you attack, and it gets very tricky, and it is very cool, and I like it a lot. Again, it is sort of Dark Souls-like in that element, and that you really need to be careful of your timing, and you want to watch for openings, and you want to be sure you don't open yourself up to the enemy by running out of stamina, because then you won't be able to dodge or attack. And you can get beat down pretty quickly early on when you don't have a lot of hit points and you don't have a lot of resources to recover stuff. There is a main story, in that it will tell you sort of go to this area and look for this thing, but pretty much most of the game area that there is unlocked. You can try and go somewhere if you want. There are some physical areas that are kind of blocked off, like it'll be you have to go around a specific way to unlock this special bridge, and the special bridge is blocked by a certain thing. So there are a few times you do sort of have to progress the story and do a specific thing before you can progress to the next area. But in general, you can spend whatever time you want going where you want. And since if you aren't in an area after a while, the bad guys will respawn and the chests will respawn, and they might be different. You can just wander around to your heart's content. I actually went to the sort of third area in the game before going to the second area, because I didn't know about it. I was following, I guess you could say, my own heart on where to go, and sort of kind of purposely ignoring a step I'd gotten, which was part of the main story, which I thought was maybe optional because it didn't seem all that up and up. It seemed kind of shady, so I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. So it is a little bit open world. It is a little bit focused on story. There definitely are sort of chapter points, at which point sort of the areas will all change, and the people in certain areas will change factions, and different factions will take over different areas. So you might go to, say, the Glades, and at the start of the game it has this kind of bad guy in it. And then after you do a certain thing, it'll change, and now it has different kind of bad guys, but the layout is all still the same. So you know the area-ish. It's a lot of games, so it'll take you a while to sort of memorize the different areas, but the areas themselves do not change in layout, but they can get quite varied in which bad guys are occupying them at the time, and within each faction there's different kinds of guys. So one time it might be a very quick, light melee guy, and the next time you go past that area it might be a heavy guy with an axe. There are also so many different kinds of weapons. You can totally build how you want. Nothing is dependent on anything else. There are no classes. So if you want to build into strength and intelligence, you can do that. Neither of those stats will actually boost anything in particular unless you have a weapon that scales off of strength or intelligence. It's not like intelligence gives you a bonus to this, and if you want that bonus you have to build into intelligence. It's not like that kind of game, at least not right now. They said they did consider it, but they felt that might pigeonhole people into certain play styles, and they wanted people to play however they want. And, you know, if you think a paladin is like this, then you can build like this, and there are no, game set requirements. So that is really fun and interesting to build however you want, and figure out sort of what kind of weapons you like, and how their attack patterns go, and do you like this one, or do you like this one? The main sort of power in your build will come from what are called runes, and these will go into weapons and sort of be categorized by each weapon type. So there are runes that are called just weapon, so that can go on a one or two-handed melee weapon, but then there are also runes that are specific to one-handed or specific to two-handed, as well as specific to two-handed staves. I don't think I've seen any wands. I think I saw on a website that they mentioned there was wands, but I haven't seen any in-game yet. And then there are bows, which are a little bit different than the normal game, because in normal games there are usually one-handed ones and then two-handed ones. Here there's only one-handed ones, and they go in your offhand. So you could have like a one-handed sword in one hand and then a bow in your offhand, which to me seems a little bit weird, but I guess that is what it is. And so there's the question of, what weapons do you want? What runes do you want? And if you find something on a weapon type you don't like, you can actually take out the rune from that weapon and put it onto a weapon that you do like. The base weapons, which are sort of the most flexible, have 4 rune spots and 4 gem spots. And then there's an enchanter in the game, so you can have her enchant, quote-unquote, a weapon, and that will change it to be either a blue or purple quality weapon, and it will remove 2 of the rune spots. And weapons always come with at least 1, so you'd only have 1 that you could slot in then. And then I think it reduces your gems down to 1 gem possible instead of 4. But there can be bigger bonuses, like you'll get bonus damage, or bonus focus, or focus on damage, or reduced stamina cost, or reduced weight, and there are all kinds of crazy bonuses that will get more powerful in purple versions, but the purple versions also come with a negative bonus. So it might be like you take extra damage on hit, or I saw one once that was like 20% less hit points, or I saw another one that was like 20% less stamina, and things like that. I usually go, oh no thank you, and then they just sell that purple immediately. So it gets really interesting, and that the basic version of an item isn't necessarily a junk item, because you might want to have it do all these different things, and then it is the most flexible, and you can upgrade it at the blacksmith and make it as powerful as a higher level item. Or you can play it safe and look at a blue item which is only positive effects, but maybe it's not the effects you want exactly. So it's a very interesting mix of what are you looking for, how do you want to play, and you have the freedom to sort of mix and match however you want. And then you build your stats accordingly. This is the first ARPG that I would say I've really loved. I am very happy that it focuses on just a few bad guys and very careful fighting instead of just spam the screen, spam the screen, spam the screen. I mean, it could be argued, especially now that I'm in that sort of last tier of level, that yes, you do kind of want to have maximum rune power and then just kind of hit your high damaging abilities, against certain bad guys, and maybe this bad guy you want to use a different one. So yes, in a way it does come down to you kind of want to spam your big attacks as quickly as you can against the heavy guys in the highest end of content. So the game does change a bit, but it's early access, things could change, but it will never be just your one ability spams the entire screen and you're killing 50 guys a second. It's never going to be that. The content that is here in early access will only take you about 15, maybe 20 hours if you only care about doing the main quest, seeing what there is, and you don't repeat stuff too much, and then you just go through and do just the quest stuff that is there. But there is quite a bit more to do after that. The leveling does go all the way to 30. The highest level sort of tier is at 21 to 30. And then there's all kinds of stuff you can farm, like you get metal resources and you get wood resources, and then you give it to sort of a builder guy in the town, and then he will upgrade the various shops. And as you upgrade those shops, they will have, better stuff for you. Like if you upgrade the blacksmith, he'll have higher tier base weapons and higher tier base heavy armor. Whereas if you upgrade the tailor, she would have higher level cloth items and leather items. So, building up your town may be a priority to you. Depends on if you want to craft or not craft. There are cool things you can craft from what I've seen, and of course, it's early access, so there probably definitely is much more to come in the future in that regard. And plus, this has an interesting way of how it goes about the world. You have your characters, and then you have the world, and your characters can go to other worlds, in theory friends worlds, though I don't think that's implemented yet. But it does mean that in cases like mine, I've started like 3 different characters after my main character to try out different builds, but I'm on the same world. So all of the questing I did, all of the city upgrades are still there. Now that is going to become tough and really tough depending on the tier you have. A starting out character is going to be level 1, and I think the lowest level bad guys in my world are like level 16. So killing even one guy, those little rats and crabs on the beach, are pretty much an epic fight for the new characters. But because it's shared by all of your characters, you can, twink over some gear and get them in, at least better starting equipment, and then it's not quite so rough a challenge. Or there are, on very rare occasions, experience potions. Then you just drop that into a stash and then pick it up with your alt, and then boom, you've gained a level or 2. Hasn't been super quick twinking a character like that, but I did get my most recent one, I think, to about level 5 or 6 on like 3 or 4 experience potions, so that was pretty good. But if you have enjoyed ARPGs in the past, but you're like me, and you're like, yeah, once it gets really spammy, I don't care anymore, I would prefer, thoughtful combat where I want to, keep track of my positioning and be careful and sort of time my attacks. This is a game I would highly recommend. Again, it is only early access, so things could change. Things are definitely being added in the future, and the devs are definitely listening. The only other thing I have for this time is a little bit about the new Remnant 2 DLC. I just peeked for maybe about half an hour or an hour. I have been not sleeping good lately, and so I'm just completely exhausted, and my brain just does not work. And in such a position, I don't really like to do things like play my MMO and have, important quests and such, because anything that requires my brain to sort of keep track of interesting lore and story, it just won't. So I didn't play too much of the Remnant 2 DLC. I did just take a quick peek. It is in Geisha, so it's fairly familiar sort of atmosphere from what you've seen already, at least in the 1 hour I played. But there is a new cool Pan NPC you talk to, and he's on his own quest, trying to look for his own sort of background and lore. And so that seems to have a very high, cool potential, because he doesn't quite trust you at the start, so he just very briefly talks about, what he's doing. And I think, from what I've seen of the DLC in trailers and such, you get a bigger sort of connection to him, and your relationship grows over time, and sort of as that happens, he will reveal more of the story to you, and you are, trying to discover this story with him. So it seems very cool. I will probably talk about that quite a bit next time. I don't have much for the close this time. I guess I saw it's supposed to be Mother's Day maybe this weekend, so if that is the case, happy Mother's Day to everybody. Hopefully all the moms will have a good day, and all the people celebrating with the moms will have a good day. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but that big money I got a while ago, I don't remember, seems like it was probably around a year ago, apparently was taxed. And so I got my tax return done, and it was like, surprise, you have a bunch more money coming back. So I get a bunch more money. So I kind of had to spend it on a couple of really big bills. And then there was an issue with my laptop. The keyboard is starting to not work right. I don't know quite what's going on with it. It doesn't seem to be the key, because the key is clean, but it doesn't quite register. If I push D, there's upwards to about a 90% chance it doesn't register. So it's like push D. And it's like, oh my god, this is so annoying. Which, as you can imagine, since most of the games I play are WASD, that's not great. Also, the left shift has 100% failure rate, so that also is not great. So I had to get a better wireless keyboard, because the one I had was good, but it was wired. And every time I had to use it outside of being totally on a desk, I was always completely nervous, because that was the one that took a chunk out of my monitor when I yanked the cord. And so I absolutely did not want to have something with a cord if I'm going to have to use it basically anytime I want to type or play a game that requires typing, which is a lot of my games. I do have a gamepad I'm using with No Rest for the Wicked, and I suppose I could use that for Evil West as well. I got Dredge on sale, so that's very good with a gamepad, but pretty much everything else I play, needs a keyboard. So I had to spend a lot more than I wanted on that for a good wireless keyboard. But I also did spend, I think it was about $20 to get a hard special case for it this time. So there will be, in theory, 0 chance that the keys will pop out or get damaged or be smashed up, because it's in a special case now whenever I don't, have it out and am using it. And, the special case is small enough that if I am just sitting outside or something, I could just leave it in the special case, and then, it's protected from causing any damage to my laptop or anything else, because it's in the case and it's wireless. So I just, basically open up the case and turn it on, and it's good to go. So I guess that was both a boon and not a boon, because, it immediately disappeared into bills and the keyboard, and then it's, pretty much gone. So I guess there is that. I don't have to worry about, covering to the end of the year, because I was worried, I might not have enough money to make it through to the end of the year, but now I do, so that is good. And I guess that's really all I have to talk about this time. Like I said, I'll probably talk about Remnant 2's new expansion on the next podcast. But that's all I can think of for this time. Hopefully I'll see everybody next time. Okay, thanks, bye. You have been listening to Rabbit's Ramblings. If you would like to see the show notes or feed the bunny by sending a donation, you can find the show website at www.rabbit.com/podcast/rabbitsramblings.html. When you type Rabbit's Ramblings, don't use a space. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at rabbit@rabbit.com. If you like my page, you can also post on Facebook at rabb1t's. You can follow me on YouTube at rabb1t's. I have a page on Patreon at www.patreon.com/rabbit, RABB1T. You can set up a monthly recurring subscription there at a price point of your choice. Be sure to put the number 1 in place of I anytime you type rabbit. Rabbit's Ramblings is copyright Eric Stryker, using a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Derivatives License, 2024.